Welcome back to the Phantom Tollbooth, and we are starting chapter 18. Milo and his friends just escaped from the gelatinous giant, and he's about to go to the castle in the air. So let's see. Higher and higher they climbed in search of the castle and the two banished princesses, from one crest to the next, from jagged rock to jagged rock, up frightful crumbling cliffs and along desperately narrow ledges where a single misstep meant only goodbye. An ominous silence dropped like a curtain around them, and except for the scuffling of their frantic footsteps, there wasn't a sound. The world that Milo knew was a million thoughts away, and the demons were there in the distance. "They're gaining!" shouted the humbug, wishing he'd never looked back. "But there it is!" cried Milo. At the same instant, for straight ahead, climbing up from atop the highest peak, was a spidery spiral stair, and at the other end stood the castle in the air. "I can see it! I see it!" said the happy bug, as they struggled up the twisting mountain trail. But what he didn't see was that curled up right in front of the first step was a little round man in a frock coat, sleeping peacefully on a very large and well-worn ledger. A long quill pen sat precariously behind his ear. There were ink stains all over his hand, and his face as well as his clothing, and he wore a pair of the thickest eyeglasses that Milo had ever seen. Oh, he looks a mess. "Be very careful," whispered Talk, when they finally reached the top, and the humbug stepped gingerly around and started up the stairs. "Names?" the little man called out briskly, just as the startled bug reached the first step. He sat up quickly, pulled the book out from under him, put on a green eye shade, and it's like a hat there, like that, and waited with his pen poised in the air. "Well, stammered the bug. "Names?" he cried again, and as he did, he opened the book to page 512 and began to write furiously. The quill made horrible scratching noises, and the point, which was continually catching in the paper, flicked tiny ink blots all over him. You can see what he looks like. There's ink blots all over him. I'm glad we don't have to use those kind of pens anymore. As they called out their names, he noted them carefully in alphabetical order. "Splendid, splendid, splendid," he muttered to himself. "I haven't had an M in ages." "What do you want our names for?" asked Milo anxiously over his shoulder. "We're in a bit of a hurry." "Oh, this won't take a minute," the man assured him. "I'm the official census taker." Census, spelled like sense rather than census. "And I must have some information before I can take your senses. Now, if you'll just tell me where you were born, when you were born, where you were born, why you were born, how old you are now, how old you were then, how old you'll be in a little while, your mother's name, your father's name, your aunt's name, your uncle's name, your cousin's name, where you live, how long you've lived there, the schools you've attended, the schools you haven't attended, your hobbies, your telephone number, your shoe size, shirt size, collar size, hat size, and the names and addresses of 6 people who can verify all this information. We'll get started. One at a time, please. Stand in line, and no pushing, no talking, no peeking." My kitty has joined us. The humbug, who had difficulty remembering anything, went first. The little man leisurely recorded each answer in 5 different places, pausing often to polish his glasses, clear his throat, straighten his tie, and blow his nose. He managed also to cover the distressed bug from head to foot in ink. "Next," he shouted very officially. I do wish he'd hurry, said Milo, stepping forward, for in the distance he could see the first of the demons already beginning to scale the mountain toward them, no more than a few minutes away. The little man wrote with painful deliberation, finally finished with both Milo and Talk, and looked up happily. May we go now? Asked the dog, whose sensitive nose had picked up the loathsome, evil smell that grew stronger every second. By all means, said the man agreeably. Just as soon as you finished telling me your height, your weight, the number of books you read each year, the number of books you don't read each year, the amount of time you spend eating, playing, working, and sleeping every day, where you go on vacations, how many ice cream cones you eat in a week, how far it is from your house to the barber shop, and which is your favorite color. Then after all that, please fill out these forms and applications, 3 copies of each. And be careful, for if you make one mistake, you'll have to do them all over again. Oh, dear, said Milo, looking at a pile of papers. We'll never finish these. And even as he spoke, the demons swarmed stealthily up the mountains. Come, come, said the census taker, chuckling gaily to himself. Don't take all day. I'm expecting several more visitors any minute now. They set to work feverishly on the difficult forms, and when they'd finished, Milo placed them all in the little man's lap. He thanked them politely, took off his eye shade, put the pen behind his ear, closed the book, and went back to sleep. The humbug took one horrified look back over his shoulder and quickly started up the stairs. Destination? shouted the census taker, sitting up again, putting on his eye shade, taking the pen behind his ear, and opening the book. But I thought, protested the bug. Destination? He repeated, making several notations in the ledger. The castle in the air, said Milo impatiently. Why bother, said the census taker, pointing into the distance. I'm sure you'd rather see what I have to show you. And we'll leave it there, and we'll see if Milo and his friends ever escape the census, not census, but census taker. Until next time.